everyone. Welcome back to our podcast, In Good Company, also known as En Buena Compañía. My name is Isis.
This is Shanti.
This is Evelyn. And we are back with our fourth episode now. We're excited and thank you guys for, keeping up with us. Now that we're here, have you guys heard about that Shakira thing going on with her song? I haven't heard much about it, but the topic was trending on Twitter.
Yeah.
So I wanted to hear about it.
Yeah. Oh my God. So I did like a deep dive into it because I'm a big Shakira fan. If you know me, you know that when I was little, you could not tell me I was not Shakira because I belly danced when I was little, so you could really not tell me. So there's so many references in the song that talk about like her relationship with Piqué, because you guys are aware he left her for like a younger woman, and she's
like she got cheated on, right? I heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I knew about that.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's all I know.
Yeah, I didn't know that her new song was like throwing shots at him.
She
TBH.
is throwing shots at this man, like shots, and they're landing. Okay,
Damn.
First she starts in the song. She's like, yo algo dos de 22. So her birthday and Piqué's birthday is February 2nd. They're 10 years apart. So it's funny, if you go to the actual video on 2 minutes and 22 seconds, she says yo algo dos de 22, and she does like this sign, because when he would score a goal, he would go like that because they're both February 2nd. And then she's in a part of the song, she's like, I know now that like when they critique you, it has nothing to do with me. She's like, que te salti Pique. So she like actually says his name.
What?
And then the girl that he cheated on her with, her name is Clara. And she's like, tiene nombre de persona buena. Claramente no es como suena.
That's crazy.
So she's saying like, then it's because Clara comes from like a god that they have, or like a santo, like a saint, Santo Clara or something like that. So that's what she's saying, like her name sounds good, but she's actually not.
Yeah, she ain't no saint.
Goodness.
She ain't no motherfucking saint. Yeah. And then in another part she goes, me dejaste la suegra como vecina y la deuda de la hacienda, because she has to pay like $14 million on a house that like he built for her. And he bought his in-laws a house like across the street, bitch. And that's why he was taking that new bitch.
That's so crazy.
The audacity,
so sad.
huh?
Yeah, they have kids, right?
Yeah, 2.
Bitch, they have kids?
2, yeah.
Dang. How did I not know this?
Yeah, they got together during the World Cup.
I feel like every time I hear a celebrity or an artist getting cheated on, I get sad. I'm like, dang. And all those people are like, I lost hope. Lost hope for what though? It's kind of normal now.
I know.
You know, like,
hey, no one's safe.
Hey, do not normalize cheating.
Yes,
that model
never.
Too, the model Emerada, she's beautiful model. Like she has her own podcast. It's really good. Wow. She married like I'm not sure what he was.
A director. He
he was a director.
Or a producer for Uncut Gems. He was on that.
Oh, so and then she had a kid with him, and then he cheated on her supposedly too. But she's still thriving. She started her own podcast. She still looks the same. She looks like a model. She's beautiful.
Yeah.
You can tell she also the way she speaks for herself. So I don't know about these men. What's going on?
Yeah. Honestly, I think that, they're just weak.
They're weak. Yeah.
They're weak because honestly, us women, we get picked on. I'm dead. But people get at us all the time. You don't even have to be beautiful. Like, you got pussy. People, you go to the gas station, they're gonna make you feel like a goddess. Like, for real. It's like,
when I feel a little down, I just go on Facebook and my tías comment on there. I'm la más hermosa del mundo, and I'm like, oh, thank you.
When you're feeling down, so you get dressed up. You go to the gas station so that the whole people can tell you like, "Hey, beautiful mama," and you can ignore them. So you're like, whatever, like another one down.
You message, you go on Twitter. I'm tired of this even hitting on me at the gas station.
Yeah, no.
But I feel like in a way we get tempted all the time. Yeah. Like us as women, more than men, I would say. You
say women get more tempted than men?
Not like tempted, like we
they
want
have
to.
More availability.
Yes,
but I agree.
We have more options. We have it's easier for us. If we really wanted to, we could. Type thing. And we don't. We chose every day to be with that person and to be faithful. And these men, they get some ass just thrown at them, and they're already weak.
I think that's where I'd say their temptation is higher too. It's like if it's there though, they'll just go and get it and cheat and ruin a relationship. Instead of I would say we're better at temptation than at least some men. I'm not saying all men, but I noticed for a man, if he's a sexy, woman or something, he's more tempted to doing something than a woman if she sees a hot guy.
Do you think it's because society trained women to be saints, to not be whores, to
it can be. I mean, it could be
that's
it could
part
be
of
like a religion, maybe, like you said. It could be maybe how it depends how you were raised with the values.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's like a whole society.
Because if you really think about it, like it wasn't until like the 40s, the 50s where women started becoming more sexy. You know, I feel like the 20s was like
the 20s was a flapper era.
Yeah,
so they were pushing boundaries for sure. Women were like sexually liberated at a point that was very revolutionary.
Yeah, but like Marilyn Monroe, she's like a sex symbol, for a reason because
she was revolutionary.
Yeah, it's like she pushed the boundaries even more. And like that's barely what we're in 2020, so like 2023, so what 100 years since women have been actually like publicly like sexy or like showing legs or like, so I can see that it's going to take a while until we kind of think like a man, and kind of just become like uncaring or unfaithful or easily tempted, like because I think that, growing up, we do have this, like, pressure of, like, especially when you're very young, like, oh, virginity. Your virginity's, like, be pure. Like, be a good girl. And then you grow up and you realize, like, it's all bullshit. At the end of the day, like, do what you do. Do what you got to do. Like, make your own rules. Like,
yeah. And I think it goes back to, it depends on your religion and how you're raised.
Yeah.
I think people will view that as, you're raised as saying, like, oh, you're pure. And, when you're with a specific religion, I grew up mostly Christian. I seen like that, and I still view it as like in some ways that sense. But I just think maybe some women save themselves for that special person or that special, and again it goes back to their views and how they were raised, so they follow that.
Yeah, I mean I'm more talking about like the societal standard because I feel like regardless of your religion, whether you're a Muslim, Jewish or whatever your religion is, I feel like there's still like a standard that women have to follow in every society. I mean, even if you go to Europe, right? Like you can be bare. Like I've gone to the beach in Barcelona and bitches have their fucking tits out, but I don't think that necessarily is like tied to like promiscuity. You know what I'm saying? Where I feel like here it's like if women were to cheat, like if Shakira were to have cheated, I think she would have been vilified, right? Like Beyonce got cheated on by Jay-Z. I did not hear anyone saying
we were more hurt. Yeah, as women, her fans were
so
hurt.
It's okay when a man does it, but like if a woman were to do it, like perfect example. Do you guys remember Twilight? Kristen Stewart.
Yeah.
Kristen Stewart cheated on Robert Pattinson, and I remember like people were tearing her down. That how could she do that? Like her cheating and all that's like just vilifying her. And to me, it's just crazy because it's like, okay, yeah, she cheated on him. That's wrong, but like. I have not seen. I don't think I can ever remember a man who has been vilified for cheating. Like I don't think that it's harmed his career.
You know who's another one? Kehlani. Remember?
Kehlani. I didn't know that.
She cheated on some basketball player.
Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, Kyrie. Yeah. And with Party Next Door.
Mm-hmm. What?
Yeah, and they trashed her. Like she almost committed suicide. It was bad.
She attempted to commit suicide.
She attempted. Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad.
Goodness.
Yeah, so I get what you're saying. That's true.
Yeah.
I get when you put it that way. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, because you're talking more like society standards, like you're saying how the world views that, and I can see that. I seen it before where a woman cheats. I'm like, I've seen people talk about that woman so bad, but when a man does it,
it's so normalized.
It's normalized a bit, and it's just like,
and even in different cultures, like I think it's India, but where they do a lot of like arranged marriages.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like the woman have to, or I don't know if it's India, but just in general, like there's those religions where like the woman has to be a virgin.
Oh yeah.
And they even test it like at the, at the wedding when they make love.
Dude, how would you guys feel about that? Like if you guys, if your mom, would you guys feel like you guys would like the person your mom would choose for you? Knowing your mom. Knowing your mom. I know.
I feel like my mom has the highest standards for me, so it's a 50-50. Because
same here. Mine's like a 50-50. I feel like with the looks, it's probably going to be like a 0, but like with the, personality,
I feel like my mom looks like she would make a good choice for me. I feel like she would make a good choice. I feel like she would. I feel like, my mom would.
Yeah, I trust her.
I do trust her. I do trust her.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it works for other people, arranged marriages.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested to see how the rates and marriage rates are over there, like in India and all these other countries.
But I think you also need to look at like, again, society, right? Divorce is like one of the worst things that you could do so they don't get divorced.
Ooh,
so a lot of women stay in abusive relationships because just through society, when you're a divorced woman, you're like a battered woman. You're like, you're not worth shit. Yeah. And you lose a lot. They don't have a lot of this.
And it's crazy, right? They get injured, hurt, thrown rocks out, but if a man cheats, What do they just go to prison, or do they what happens to them?
I think it depends. It depends on the country, because I know like in Malaysia, if you do cheat, they stone the woman and the man, but obviously the woman gets more lashings or something like that. So when
I think about the lashes, like how can you injure a human being for like I mean, I guess there's mistakes, but physically hurting someone.
I just feel like no, you're not. You know, we were all human. We all fuck up. You know, and that's where like who are you to really bash people for anything? Because like you don't know if you were in their shoes, went through what they went through. Like you know, would you like no, you probably eat your words.
So they're like society's so easy to judge and say, you know what, you cheated, you're gonna get like whooping or whatever you lashed. But they don't consider the fact like what's really been going on inside that relationship. You know, what happens in closed doors. You don't know that.
But yeah, back to the divorce thing. You know, I always hear a lot of like the older generation talk bad about us when it comes to marriage, because like the divorce rate is like high. But I think that has a lot to do with women in these ages just being so independent and like having higher standards and like higher values on what they really want in a partnership. I feel like back then, like, you know, probably like a marriage was more seen like transactional. Yeah. And I feel like now it's like, no, you really want like a real partner, you know? And like, and then now if you cheat or something, like we really do leave, you know, because like I said, like we're so independent now, like we have our own assets. Like we really don't need a man as much as we used to back then.
Yeah, and I think too, it's something like important to note that up until I believe 1975, women are not allowed to open a bank account on their own without the signature of a man. Yeah. So yeah, it ties back into like financial independence or financial dependency, you know, and why these women were not allowed to leave. Like looking at, you know, child support, alimony, kind of those institutions and how they supported women at the time. Because a lot of the time women were having part-time jobs because jobs did not value them. You know, they thought like, this is a woman, this is her. Society viewed women as like, your job is to cook, clean, and stay in the household. And so
don't step out of that line.
You don't need a full-time job, you know, like you don't need that.
I think a lot of women get part-time jobs because they have to take care of their kids too. You know, it's not even always by choice, but it's because like, you know, babysitters are so expensive. Like, so you do the math and you're like, I would save more money if I just don't work than paying a babysitter and working. Like, it doesn't always make sense. But then I also think, you know, women back then didn't divorce because of societal standards. Yeah. You know, back then you were like, it was frowned upon if you got divorced.
Like they settled for what they had. Smaller towns, like where my parents are from in Mexico, there's like a ranchito or a little pueblo, also like a small town. And obviously there's less people. So, he's dating this person's son. They all knew each other. Yeah. I wouldn't say they probably settled, but most people settled back then with what they had. And now that compared to where we live in bigger cities, we have more options, but more in a sense.
Social media too.
Social media, but you really truly get to know these individuals. Like, is this what I want long term?
You know, they say like science, like 90, like we date based on our proximity. Like proximity is like one of the major factors of who we choose in our partners.
Yeah. See, I don't believe in that. I feel like my
you're like
I don't know proximity. I feel like it depends. I feel on the individual. Depending, but like someone in Europe or something.
I had a friend who went on if you're watching this, but I had a friend who went to Istanbul, met a man, and this bitch up and rooted, and now she's living a beautiful life with her man.
Damn. See, that's a scary thing though. She moved over there, right?
She did move over.
That's a big risk.
That's a big risk too, because it's like I'm so open about this stuff, but I'm also very close to my family.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think I would be depressed. Yeah. But I mean, each their own. There's people that really don't have like family like that, so to them it's like, you know, fuck
But
it.
yeah, going back to what you said though, the divorce rates now are more higher than they were before. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of factors to that. Again, not settling, knowing your worth, knowing how much you can be financially independent, and whether you don't have that option or not. But, you know, now we are more aware of ourselves as women and what we bring to the table.
Isn't it also ironic that like one of the reasons why women divorce now, like one of the top reasons for divorce is money. And one of the reasons why women did not divorce back then was because of financial dependency. And now it's like there's a two income household and people are still breaking, and money is one of the number one causes of divorce.
Wow, yeah, I would say all the debt that we're in to BH. Like I feel like everyone's so in debt now these days because of credit cards, of school debt, or you want to buy a new car. Like we're so in debt. So I think that causes a lot of like mishaps in like marriages, you know, because if you're hiding your debt from your spouse and they figure out later on when you're trying to get a house, you know, so I think a lot of it has to do with debt. And yeah, I would say that.
So, Evelyn, I know that, for you, you grew up in a Christian household. How do you think that molded your perception of marriage?
Growing up in a Christian household was a lot different. I mean, every religion has their own values. And I mean, whether one's right or wrong, we can't really say. The way I saw it with my parents, they were both Christian, and I was always constantly going to church, seeing how, they had their relationship in front of me. Being Christian, I'm not saying every Christian couple is like this, but my parents have never gotten divorced, and I thank God for that. Or I've never seen them argue, at least, not in front of me or my brothers. But I've noticed that they stuck very strongly with their values. And I think that Christianity was a religion that they hold strongest with them, because they know that it's what brings them together. Faith. Christianity is known for faith, God, and, centering your life around God, and how we want to obey this God and make sure that we're doing the right things in life. And you know how the Christianity Bible has like the 10 commandments?
10 commandments.
It's if you think about it, those 10 commandments do come in place in some ways as in life, as like, do not steal from your neighbor, love your enemy, or I'm not sure, love your enemy is one of the
love thy
neighbor. Love thy neighbor. But it makes sense now. I do it and I practice that, and I see it, and the way I see my parents have this healthy relationship, they taught me that I want to seek the same thing as I do. Does that mean I'm going to revolve my whole life around Christianity? No, not necessarily, but I do think it's values I do want to stick strong with,
Yeah. It's like a manual book for you.
Like a manual book, exactly. But if I choose to do a different route, then I'll do a different route. But again, those are still values I'm always going to hold with me very strongly. What about you guys? How would you say with, how would your parents, Chantel, with divorce or any of that? Did they?
I mean, my parents have like a very beautiful marriage. I've always admired them. And now that I'm older, I do like realize that they have a very unique marriage. Because like my dad, he's not rich or nothing. Like, I would even say my mom makes a little more than him. But there's always been a respect between them. Because like, my mom always respected him and his authority. So if I wanted to do anything, she'd always be like, it's up to your dad. Go ask your dad. But my dad helps out my mom a lot. He cleans the whole house. Yes, the whole house. He does yard work. He fills up my mom's tank. He details the car. Like, he makes her life so easy. So all she does when she comes home from work is cook for him. And she never skips a day. Like, if she's really tired, she'll literally we'll order out. But 9 out of 10, she's going to come home, driving all the way from LA, and she's going to cook.
Are your mom's cooking?
Bomb. Hey,
Bon appetit.
For reals. Hey, now that I live on my own, let's just say I miss it every day. But yeah, I feel like looking at them, it's always gave me like a good, like, how you say, like a good manual, a good, like, what I really want in a partnership. And it also makes me realize like their marriage is just so unique, or it's just so it's working because they help each other out. Like in some way, in some form, they make their lives easier.
Yeah.
And I would say that I love how I grew up, like looking at same thing. Like, my dad is a very religious man, so he also like, he practices standards and all that, within my family. And my mom is not religious, but going back to the respect, like my mom respects his values. She respects the religion. Like she respects him as a man, as a dad, as a human being.
What about you, Isis? What's your perception in marriage with your family?
Well, I did grow up in a single parent household. My mom is divorced, and so I grew up, not really. I mean, I never really expected to even be married, to be honest. Like, I know people always like ask me like, oh, what? I don't even think people ask me like that, but like, when I got married, people like, oh my God, what did you think about your wedding or that? And I'm like, honestly, I did not care. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I did not care. I feel like I grew up and I just saw my mom, hyper independent, doing a lot of things on her own. And so my perception of marriage, it wasn't like my end goal. I didn't think that like that would be my end all be all. And I think that really reflects a lot on my life, like how you saw your parents, and it's like a relationship where God is centered, and like how those values are really important to you and how you're looking to, implement that in your relationship, how you saw that, although it wasn't, your mom was not, your mom's the, breadwinner, which is not typical. There was a partnership and exchange. And for me, I feel like that manifested in my life with being super hyper independent, because I saw my mom be successful, you know, doing things independently, doing things on her own. And so it's been so hard for me to like transition, even though I have a good partner who I know cares and wants to do those things for me. It's hard to kind of transition into like allowing them the opportunity to do things for you, because I've seen success done independently. And so I think like, oh, the only way I'll be successful is like to count on me, you know? And so now that I'm in a marriage, I'm shifting and I'm like, you know, get my bags, do this, and you know, like, but in a kind way, but like shifting to like the little things, like you said, to make my life easier. How am I going to allow him the opportunity to do those things for me? Because then it's like sometimes we nag and we're like, you don't do this, you don't do that. They can't fucking read your minds.
Yeah, like, you got to spell it out.
You got to communicate.
Yeah. And I think that's where, you know, from then you can judge them. Like, if you're telling them, I want this, I want that, like, this will better my life, then, you know, and they're taking action, you know, respect. But obviously, if you're voicing and you're communicating and nothing's being done, then I think that's when you really should reflect and, you know, see what am I gaining from this relationship? Like, you know, is this really a true partnership?
Mm-hmm. And I think, too, shifting, like, the narrative of being a divorced woman, like it's not the end all be all, right? Like there's a lot of people who either get married several times or find, you know, the love of their life later, or don't get married until later. Like even Kourtney Kardashian, I know the Kardashians shouldn't necessarily be a standard we all live up to, but how come she was with Scott for like all those years? Even Shakira, going back to that, she was with Piqué for over 10 years, like since 2010, over 12 years, and she never wanted to get married. Like, do you guys think that she felt deep down in her heart that this relationship was not going to work out?
Yeah, I think that us women, like, you know, I think we see marriage as more of a bigger commitment than men, you know, and I think that if a woman is not pushing the issue, then that should tell you a lot. TBH. Did you guys hear that? There's like an article going around, or I saw on TikTok, but basically they did like a happy scale, like who's the most happy people in the world, and it's single women.
Yeah. Is it really?
Yeah. Well, so, like older.
Speaking as a single woman, I am super happy.
So the statistic is right.
Except if they were specific on the months, November through December, depressed. Back to January, we're back on our BS.
Seasonal depression is real.
Like that. Seasonal depression is real.
Yeah, and they're saying that a lot of women that choose at the end of, like, you know, like I'm talking about older women, like 50s, 60s, that never got married, didn't have any kids, or probably have kids, but just single.
Yeah.
Are the happiest women. I mean, happiest people. Like, I feel like that should say a lot, TBH. Like,
yeah, I guess it does say a lot. But do you think that these women just were maybe with like shitty people in their lives, that's why they're happy? They're kind of relieved from it.
Yes. Yeah, I think yes. I think, you know, misery loves company, you know, and miserable people make other people miserable. And it's like, think about it. A lot of these women, if we're trying to look at it contextually, right? Like they're older women now. They grew up in a time where it was difficult for women to get full-time employment, you know, where they were valued less, the undervaluation of like women's labor. And so again, financial dependency, why they didn't leave. So it's like, I feel like women didn't have the choice. And being single is a choice, because you could settle with someone who ain't shit if you really want to be with someone.
Just because you're lonely. Yeah. But it's like, no, you know, like I'd rather be alone than with bad company.
Yeah. And then I remember my mom would always tell me when I would get sad about something, or someone should be like, it's better to be sad for a season than a lifetime. And I was like, dang, you know, I took that and I was like, you're right. You end up your life committing and marrying this person. Would I rather be depressed and sad through this whole lifetime of mine, or let it go through a season?
Yeah. And, you know, I learned this in school, but statistically, women, like, let's say, like, I'm 70 years old, right? And my spouse dies. Like, I will still live a long, happy life, like, until I can. But if it's a man that loses their wife and they're in the 70s, like, usually a man would die within that year or two. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Like,
is it because a woman does everything? And now...
I think it has a lot to do with it. And yeah,
they don't realize what they got till it's gone.
Yeah.
Like, literally.
Yeah. I think what it is too, like us women, like we stay with community. Like we stay in touch with our moms, with friends. Like we're very social people. And I feel like men, like, not all men, because, you know, my man is close to his family, but there's a lot of men that are not really close to their family or don't stick with the friends. And so, like their life is their wife, you know?
Yeah.
And so once they die, it's like they feel extremely alone, that they probably die of like loneliness or depression.
That's why they say you should have multiple sources of happiness when you're either single or in a relationship. Don't devote your whole life to one individual.
I totally
because
agree.
when you fall, you'll fall hard. You know, and that's why taking a pottery class, reading a book, finding all these distractions that make you happy. At the end of the day, you will end up happy in a relationship because you realize your whole happiness doesn't depend on one individual.
Yeah.
So when they're moody, oh, I'm moody, it's because he's mad. Why does it matter if he's mad? That's a him problem. That's not a you problem.
Yeah. If it has nothing to do with you, like you didn't do that, then, you know, like you can't depend your happiness on a partner.
You can't. You should never. I feel like, you know, again, I've been in a long-term relationship, you know, and I would never depend my partner. I would never depend on my happiness, you know, to be on another person's happiness because, like you said, emotions are, you know, fluid. And so, I don't know, if they leave you tomorrow, obviously it would be detrimental and you'd be heartbroken, but like that should not be the source of your happiness. That should not be your light. They should add to it, you know? It should be like lighting. Like they should make your life brighter. But if they remove it away, you still have other, you know, sources of light.
Hey, this is your world. We're just living in it.
Oh, hey, you heard it here first.
Yeah, so women, don't settle for less. Know your worth. I think that's really impactful now as a woman. It's hard. We don't want to settle for less, and we should be very aware of what we bring to the table.
Yeah. And I would say like you know, men can learn a lot from this too, because you know, I feel like a lot of men think like women nowadays are like such gold diggers, or all we care about is like how much you make, but you know, like that's not true at all. We just want to see.
Or you could be making a lot of money. I don't care. It's if you do not have values, as in like know how to respect a woman or know how to be honest or loyal, that money doesn't matter to me. I mean, it can to a certain extent, I guess, if like you're not doing anything with your life, but. Dude, come on, you have to bring something to the table, is it emotionally?
As far as like a partnership.
As a partnership,
you know, like how are you going to make my life easier? And vice versa, you know? Because I feel like us women, we're always trying to figure out how to make your life easier. That's why we're naturally givers. Like, you know, we'll fucking, you know, like I like to buy food, you know, like I'll buy you food, or, you know, I'll do your laundry, or I come and surprise you while you're at work.
Your love language.
Yeah, mine's acts of service, you know? So I'll literally go clean your apartment or your house, whatever, while you're gone to surprise you, you know? Like, and I think men can learn a lot from that. And just, you know, if you meet a woman that's strong, independent, and got it all going on, and you can't figure out, like, you know, you figure out that money. Yeah, you figure out, like, money, you know, like, she has that. Then be creative, you know, fill up her tank, take her car one day, detail it, surprise her, like, you know, wash her dishes, like, buy her flowers, like, you know, or just keep, like, gas her up, like, you know, just little things that it's gonna.
These little things matter.
Yes.
I want to mention, also emphasize how a lot of men think that, oh, because a woman is so independent, she can buy her own food, she can surprise herself. Little things like filling up a gas tank, or, you know, buying her lunch, they all matter. They all make her day. They make my day. At least when someone does something, yeah, I can brag about like, oh, I can do this by myself, I can do that. But a little gift from someone, I will not say no to it. You know, it makes me feel happy.
Yeah.
And even like learning how you were saying your love language. I know you're like words of affirmation, right? Words of affirmation. Yeah. So it's like learning a fair trade-off, right? Maybe like you said, maybe you don't have the money to give her the world, but if she's someone who's maybe loves spending quality time, find the time to spend time with her, even if it's to watch some corny ass fucking movie, or wake up every morning. You know what? I don't have anything to give her, but let me tell her, good morning, babe. You're so beautiful. You're so amazing. You know, your shit don't stink.
Guys, take notes.
You know?
Okay, well, hey, thank you for giving all those potential guys advice.
But, you know, so I definitely agree. I think, you know, if you're a guy watching this, or even a girl, right? Because I'm not a words of affirmation person, and I know my partner, like, he would love for me to say, like, baby,
learn her love language,
you know, but I do more acts of service. So I think a fair trade-off is that, like, even taking the time to learn about the things that they do love or they do appreciate, and doing like their love languages, that is so important. You
and
know?
Vice versa, you know, getting to know each other's love language. Do you feel like you know your partner's love language? Like, you know how to provide that love language to your partner?
Provide?
She knows it.
Hey, I do know it.
I do know it, but will I do it?
I do know it. I mean, I don't know. It's like, again, I unfortunately, I did not grow up in a household where, like, I never grew up, and it's so sad to say, but I never grew up seeing a healthy marriage. Like, I had aunts who were married, and they're those couples, they're like, 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 dale un bésense. They're like, un beso? They're like, oh, hell no, I'd rather cut my lips off, throw them away, burn them to ashes, regurgitate. Like, they would rather do anything but, like, kiss, you know? Yeah. And then so, like, it was so hard. Like, I remember when my partner would try to grab my hand in public, I'd be like, oh my God. Like, I just wouldn't like that. I remember when I dated some guy in high school and he would want to like kiss in the hallway and shit like that. I would be like, in front of everyone, like I would just.
Yeah. So what's it called? Sad. PTS or
PDA. Public displays of affection.
I don't know if that's a trauma though or any of that.
But I'm not comfortable with like I was not comfortable with any kind of like affection, like even holding hands, even kissing, or like I was not comfortable with that. Like it physically made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think it's just because you didn't grow up seeing that. Yeah, realizing now in your marriage that that's probably something you have to unlearn. You know, and relearn something different with him because
I have to literally think. Like I'll think I'm like, oh, like he'll tell me something and he'll always like, so babe, what do you think? I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And he'll be like, okay. And I'm like, oh yeah, like that's cool. Like I don't know, I feel like I'm just maybe not that, like I'm expressive, but like I'm like, oh, that's really cool for you, XYZ. But I feel like he wants me to be like, oh my God, that's fucking oh my God, that is so amazing. Like
I love that.
Like, but I'm just like not always that person. Like, you know, like I don't know. So
I feel great. Work on that. So last time we were talking about you know how we feel good when a manager or someone from higher up recognizes us.
I feel like I'm like
maybe love languages. Word of affirmations. When someone tells you something,
bitch,
like,
now that just makes me feel like valid. Like, all right, fuck it, I can clock out for the day.
Well, me personally, when someone compliments me with my work or something, I'm like you did an amazing job. I want to like record and say, can you say that again? I did what? An amazing. Okay, cool.
You're like, what? Oh my God. Like, I did a what?
You posted.
Can you say it louder?
Yeah, so it's been like that. It's interesting. We'll learn more about love languages, I think, through time.
Yeah, and that's one thing for sure. Like in a partnership, you have to learn the other person's love language and do their love language.
Yes.
Because I think we do our own love language to the person, and we're like, why don't they feel loved? Like we do X, Y, and Z, and then you realize that it's quality time. You know, like, and you've been doing acts of service or reassurance.
And you're doing your love language for you, the one that you like or any of that. But then they have a different love language.
Yeah.
And that makes sense.
Yeah. So, to a lifetime of learning other people's languages and hopefully they learn yours. But yeah, so don't forget to share, drop down a comment. What do you guys want us to talk about next?
Yeah, and thank you guys for watching. Keep following us. Keep staying updated with our videos. Don't forget to follow us on social. My Instagram is @Evelyn.
And mine is at Chantel's Way.
And you can follow me on IG, iEasy, or TikTok, iEasy, another I. All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you.